So the prices usually vary because when there's a new consumer.
I'm happy to be here. As it has already been said, my name is Chala Tumelo. Chala is my first name, Tumelo is my last name. I'm a product of foreign education. For my undergraduate, I was at Wits University in South Africa. For my master's, I've been with UNICAF University. And now I'm doing my doctorate degree in business administration, and that I'm still with UNICAF. I'm an ardent student of strategy. So strategy is at the core of my interests as an individual and also as a professional. As a professional, I've been in the creative arts from 1997 to 2012, actively producing for ZNBC and other broadcasters. And from 2012 up to now, I'm heavily involved in systems development. So on one hand, I'm a media producer, so I handle cameras, editing and all that. On the other hand, I am a computer systems developer. So I write software, so I live inside code. Yes, so that's my history. So for the last 25 years, I've basically been either doing systems or doing media. Okay, so that is my professional life. So currently, I'm the systems administrator for Northern Command Military Hospital in Ndola, as well as the Defense School of Health Sciences. So my job there is to see to it that the data systems that support the business of the institutions are working correctly. Okay, I'll say that again. It is to ensure that the data systems that support the business of the institutions are working correctly. So in that function, part of it is computing, specifically data management. And the other side is business, from the strategic point of view and from the management point of view. So I'm happy to speak to you today, partly because in the last 1 year, I have joined the Institute for Strategic Management, which I joined as a result of my inclination in systems development and business management, and also out of the need to be part of a team that is going to be articulating strategic issues in the nation. And when we say strategic issues in the nation, we're talking about strategy for education, because education is a national program. Strategy for the economy, because the economy is a strategic program. A strategy for entrepreneurship, employment, human capacity development, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do this morning is briefly discuss strategic management as a concept, assuming that you guys here are going to be involved in the creation and management of strategy in the companies, business institutions where you are going. I believe you're going somewhere, not so? Okay. So now let's get into the presentation itself. So I'm going to do a very, very simplified introduction to strategic management. Introduction to strategic management. So you will find strategic management at the undergraduate level, especially when you go into the 4th year. In some universities, they do it in the 3rd year, but you will certainly be introduced to strategic management in the 4th year, and I believe you'll be required to write a paper about it. When you do masters, you spend at least 13 weeks, in certain cases 15 weeks, learning strategy, now at a broader level, at a broader and critical level. What a bachelor's degree does is to give you information. What a master's degree does is to help you to question the information that you have received. And what a doctorate degree does is to get you to create new information. You're seeing how it works, eh? And so what the doctors discover gets to be learned at the bachelor's level, then gets to be questioned at the master's level, and then gets to be refined, discarded, adopted, readopted, tested at the PhD level. So it's a continuous cycle like that. So, but what I would do is quickly just to introduce you to strategic management. So I will compress my notes. Okay. So now, in the title of the presentation, there is a word strategic and management. The reason why that is like that is because strategic management is different from management. So when we talk about management, we are saying one thing. When we're talking about strategic management, we're talking about something else. So first of all, what is management? Management can be defined as the process of planning and implementing. So it's a process of planning. It's also a process of implementing organizational policy in keeping or in line with the mission and the vision of the firm. So there we are saying that a firm has a vision, a firm has a mission, and concerning the mission and the vision, it comes up with policies. So what a manager will do is to plan how to implement those policies so that the vision is achieved and the mission is also achieved. So there are some loaded words there, mission and vision. Have you learned about this already? Okay, so quickly, what is the mission? What is the mission of the firm? It normally comes in a statement, eh? Yes, so what the organization does, and the vision? Okay, yes. So in other words, vision articulates where the company or the firm wants to be. It's about where it wants to be. That is the vision. Then mission, it is about what the company is doing now and how it is going about what it is doing. So you find that a mission statement carries a statement about its values, what it wants to, how it wants to serve its customers, and so on and so forth. But the vision, it is where it wants to be. So like I'll give you an example. Lower prices you can trust always. What is that? Is that a mission statement, or it is a vision statement? It's a mission statement. Okay. To be the market leader in Zambian software development, is that a mission statement or it's a vision statement? Okay, so because one is looking at where the company wants to be, the other one is looking at where the company is. So if you're going to be the manager, you're going to be in charge of planning. So planning is a process. If you're going to be in charge of implementing, so you make the plan and then you make it work. So you're going to be planning and implementing organizational policy in keeping with the mission and the vision of the firm. So business management is all about that. Planning, implementing, watching over the processes to make sure that they are working. And there was someone who talked about efficiency. Effectively and efficiently implementing. Efficiency, what does efficiency refer to? It means doing the right thing or minimizing losses. Okay, so you minimize the cost and you maximize the profit, the profit, that is efficiency. Because you can do things very expensively or you can do things relatively cheaply. And when we begin to talk that language, we'll be talking about comparative advantage. The other definition of management is the provision of leadership and guidance, command and control in the process of transforming inputs into outputs and investments into profits. So a manager is concerned about transforming inputs into outputs. Now, in a company, how many of us have done operations management? Operations management? Okay, not yet. Okay. So what a company does, or what an organization does, is basically to transform inputs into outputs. Now, what are the inputs? People, human resource, labor, in other words, capital, raw materials. Okay? So you transform those into a product that can be sold. Then so the manager is also interested in transforming investments into profit. So that's one view of management, and that is another view of management. So now let's look at what is strategy. So strategy can be defined as a mid to long-term plan to grow and maintain the firm's market share. Okay? A mid to long-term plan to grow and maintain the firm's market share. Firm's market share. Most people do not understand what a strategy is. We think a strategy is a plan and a plan is a strategy, but those are two different things. Yes, a strategy is a plan, but it has a component of time in it. Okay, so if you have a plan for your company or for yourself that is going to be implemented and you want to see the results today, that's not a strategy, it's just a plan. But if you have a plan that you are going to implement today and see the results in 3 years, that is a strategy. Or you're going to see the plan in you're going to see the results in 5 years. That is a strategy. Or you're going to see the results in 10 years. That is long term now. That is a strategy. So strategy differs from a normal plan just in terms of time. When are you going to see the results? Okay? So strategic planning forecasts and prepares for changes in 3 dimensions. So the moment you say strategy, you are not only talking about time. We're beginning to talk about preparation for what might come. So a company is always concerned about where will we be in the next 3 years? Where we will be in the next 5 years? Where will we be in the next 10 years? If that question is not asked and answered properly, that company will die. So strategic management, therefore, is all about mid to long-term planning. It's all about focusing and preparation for changes in the following 3 dimensions. Number 1, in competition within the industry. So there will be changes in the competition within a particular industry. So now let's bring this one a bit home. When we talk about an industry, we're looking at a group of companies doing more or less the same thing. Okay? So if you think of ShopRite, who are the competitors for ShopRite? Pick and Pay. Anyone else? Any other competitor? Huh? Choppies. Can you think of any other? Spa. Okay, but is Game a competitor to ShopRite? Why? Huh? Come on, speak up louder. Different commodities. Yes, so the business model is more or less the same, but they deal in different merchandise. So they would not be they would not be inscribed in that particular industry. So when you look at focusing and preparing for competition in the industry, you need to identify who are your competitors. Okay, these are things you'll be dealing with, whether you're dealing with marketing, you're dealing with finance, you're dealing with operations, whatever part of management. You're going to have to identify who are your competitors, what makes your industry. Okay, so let's think of motor vehicles. Who are the competitors to Toyota? Tata. Others? Nissan. Others? Mercedes. Benz. Others? Honda. Others? Mazda. Yes. So you can see. So all these are competing for the same market. So they can be clustered as an industry. So as a strategic planner, you're going to be focusing and preparing for changes in your particular industry. So if you're going to be employed as a manager and you're put in charge of strategy, these are the questions you'll be asking for. Number one, who are we? Then number two, who is like us, who is competing for the same market. The second dimension where strategy is applicable, it is in terms of competition with other companies at what is called the resource level. The resource level. So the first one, you are competing for the market share. But the second one, you are competing for strategic resources. So here we begin to talk about strategic resources or strategic assets. So you're going to learn, especially if you do your MBA, you're going to be introduced to what is called RBV, the resource-based view of competition. Meaning, basically, there must be something about your company that makes you strong, that differentiates you from the others. Either your processes, or your intellectual capital, or your products. Like for instance, do you know how long Fanta has been around, and Coca-Cola? They've been there for more than 100 years. What makes them different? So what is it about Fanta that makes it float throughout generations? Maybe it is the way they market, or maybe it is the taste of the product itself. Okay, so as a strategic manager, you are going to be facing the question: what is it about us that makes us special? That gives us the edge when we get to compete. But apparently, that question starts with, even for you as an individual, there must be something about you that makes you special, that makes you stand up in a crowd. Do you know what that is? For you. You have an idea. What is it? Are you free to talk about it publicly? No. Okay, so we can leave it. How about you? Do you know something special about you? Yes. Something that you have that others don't have? Yes. Okay, good. So the resource-based view of strategic management looks at the development of strategic assets, things that make you strong inside, and that help you to compete outside. So if you look at me, what do you think makes me strong? My specs? How about him? What makes him special? Height? Oh no, complexion. Okay, so that is about the internal dimension of focusing and preparing for changes. Then strategic management looks at how to prepare the firm for the forces that come outside the firm itself. Okay? So there are forces that are not of a business nature that will always affect a company. A good example, who was alive amongst you guys when there was a company called the Posts and Telecommunications Corporation, PTC? This company was solely and exclusionarily responsible for transmission of communication from person to person and from organization to organization. So they used to make stamps, which would place. You buy the stamp, place on an envelope, and so you consign them that letter to Marjorie, who is in Mpika. So when you want to write, Marjorie, I love you, I'm thinking about you, I'm not even sleeping, even if I've got exams, but my mind is just nuts, so please help me, and all that nonsense. So you take so you take the letter, put it in an envelope, then you go to the post office. They used to have post offices there. So you buy a stamp, you even put some saliva there, put it on the stamp, and then you put it in the send box. From there, it will take 2 weeks to arrive that side. So she receives it. She also goes nuts. Yeah, that's writing. Oh yeah, I understand. Just I'm waiting for you. Blah 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 blah. And she puts all the nonsense back and also bites it and sends it. So for the letter to go and the response to come, 1 month has passed. And those days we were super patient, Mr. Duck. We were very patient. Nothing like I've sent a text message and she's not answering. Oh, please help me. Where is she? There was nothing like that. 1 month. But in the meantime, Post and Telecommunications Corporation is making money through conveyance of communication. Formal communication, love communication, family communication, and they used to make money. 1990, someone in Silicon Valley is thinking about email. How can we do this? Electronic. By 2000, email is not only up, but it is spreading across the world. 2010, posts and telecommunications corporations everywhere in the world have closed down. Why? External forces of change. So, if you are a strategic manager and you were in charge of Post and Telecommunications Corporation, it would have been your duty to identify what is happening in the technological world and how will it affect our business now. And then roll out a plan, maybe a 30-year plan, to keep your Posts and Telecommunications Corporation afloat, even when email comes. Are you with me? Yeah, so strategic management is about questions like that. Okay, so what is threatening our company? And so in that area, what forces are around and how do we prepare ourselves to go? ShopRite has done extremely well. ShopRite came into this country when, do you remember? Maybe that's when some of you were born, 1994. And so competition has come and competition has gone. But ShopRite keeps standing. So we can credit them too. We can credit their strategic management and focus to be very good. But in the meantime, other companies have come up and crashed. So as a strategic manager, you are or strategic thinker, you are responsible for keeping your company afloat in those three areas. In terms of your competition, generally speaking, competing for market share, in terms of your internal strategic resources and assets, and also in terms of the forces of change that come from outside the company. So quickly, I'm not just going to give you an introduction of some of the scholarship that is available concerning these three dimensions. Number one, you will hear of a guy called Porter, an American scholar, who articulated the 5 forces of competition in a given industry. And the first force of competition is the force of new entrants. So if today you join a company, okay, let's talk about CBU. So you join CBU as a strategic manager. One of the things you look out for is the force of new entrants, because other universities may come up. So when they come up, what would that mean for your market share? What would that mean for where you are and where you are going? Then there is a second force, which is the force of suppliers. In an industry is always supplied. So there's what is called supply chain. Now some of you might even do supply chain management when you go to your master's degree. Okay, so we talked about one of the definitions of management, turning inputs into outputs, turning investment into profit. So the question is, for you as a strategic manager, where and how do you get your inputs, specifically raw materials? Okay? Are you aware that mining companies especially, a good number of them are involved in getting acid from somewhere, getting the ore from another place, getting this from another place, then everything comes together and the product is developed. So suppliers are a force in an industry. The other force is a force of customers, the buyers. So those who buy are a factor in a given industry, and you're planning for all those. Then there's a force of substitute products. One of the problems that has happened in the telecoms industry, to speak strategically, if you know the story of Nokia. Who of you guys ever used a Nokia before? Okay, and those Nokia phones. Yes. Where is Nokia today? Okay. Who used the Nokia yesterday? It's gone. Okay, what happened? Substitute products came about. So when a company does not plan its strategy well, you're going to find that what you've been doing, others can also do, and therefore quickly you are substituted. Even when you are a player, like you play for Man U, be careful of the substitute on the bench, because if a substitute performs better, you will be history. This happens even in relationships. You can be substituted. So beware of substitutes and be special. Keep fit. If you have a smartphone, you can scan this with your QR code scanner. This is a QR code. If you scan it, it will take you to the page where you will find an elaborate explanation of Porter's 5 forces of competition in the industry. Okay, and then of course there is a force of rivalry amongst existing competitors. We've already talked about that. So let's go to the next one. We talked about the resource-based view of competition, how you use strategic and special assets within your company to compete with the outside. Okay, now there's some scholarship that has defined what a resource is, what a strategic resource is. So I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of what can be considered a special strategic resource which can be used for competition. Number 1, a resource or an asset needs to be valuable. Okay? Number 2, it needs to be rare. If it's not valuable, you cannot use it for competition. You cannot use it to compete. If it's not rare, you can also not use it for competition, or you cannot use it for strategic purposes. Number 3, it must not be imitable. So it must be inimitable. An inimitable asset, meaning it cannot be imitated. It must be non-substitutable, and it must be exploitable. So I'll comment. I think I'll comment on all the 5 qualities of the strategic asset. So you go into this company, and you are the manager, and you're going to be in charge of strategy. The question is, how do you develop strategic assets to have, in order for you to have your competitive advantage over your competitors? So a strategic asset maybe can be a process, a very unique process that differentiates you from others. So now that process, we are saying it needs to be valuable. It needs to have some value about it, meaning that there is a cost attached to having it. Okay? Then it must be rare. If it is common, then maybe even the next door neighbor the company next door has it, so it means that there's two of you. Okay, but it needs to be rare. Number three, it should not be imitated. Now, like in advanced countries, there are laws that exist to curtail or to prohibit illegal imitation of what others have made. That is why Coca-Cola you cannot replicate Coca-Cola, even if you know the formula. But if you replicate it, it's an offense. Okay? So it cannot be imitated. It should be non-substitutable. We've already talked about this. But exploitable. It must be exploitable. A strategic asset can be a process. It can also be an individual. Okay? How many of you are familiar with the Bible? Okay, so a number of you. There was a guy in the Bible called Joseph. If we had the time, I would tell you the whole of his story. But I want to go to the end of his time in prison. So he's in prison, and the King Pharaoh, has a dream which he cannot interpret. So he becomes restless. So he begins to ask his people, can you find someone who can interpret this dream? So they bring the wise men, the magicians, and everyone is failing. Then someone says, there's a Hebrew boy who I found in prison. Let's go and see if we can find him. So they bring Joseph. Long story short, Joseph interprets a dream. So it's about strategy. So Joseph says there's going to be a famine that will hit the entire sub-region. Now, before the famine, there's going to be 7 years of plenty. So let us, I like the way strategy is introduced in the Bible. That is the first place where you actually see strategy, like in a textbook. So he says, so in the next 7 years, let us plant a lot, and let us create so much storage that we'll be putting whatever we'll be harvesting there. So that when the next 7 years of famine come, we will be safe. That is Joseph. That is pure textbook economics on strategy. So now, then Joseph says, so Pharaoh, find a man who can help you do these things. Then Pharaoh says, wait a minute. Can we find a man apart from this same guy? So you yourself are going to be in charge of Egyptian national strategy. So Joseph becomes a critical, valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable, and exploitable asset to Pharaoh. So we're looking at an example of an individual who becomes indispensable. You cannot substitute him. You substitute him, you die. So, a strategic asset can be a process, it can be a product, it can be some type of machinery where you just collected designers and you paid them to make something for you, and it's only yours. So everyone is wondering, how are they ticking? But you see, it's been made specifically for you. So it is rare, it is non-substitutable. Exploitability. I'm a business scholar, so I'm very free with information. I once came to and I was told, no, please bring those applications again because we have lost them. The registry cannot find them. The registry cannot find application forms. It's a bouquet of documents like that. How come? You've got doctors in computer science, and you cannot have a program that can deal with registry information. Come on. But that is exploitability. You've got assets that you cannot use. So you've got students, you've got lecturers who can't make stuff. Come on. There's something wrong in the picture there. You go into companies where you find these same things, where the money is there. You can hire people to do stuff. Or those people are actually even employed already, and they're very good, but you can't use them. One of the reasons why the higher you go in education in Zambia, the more you feel like going out of the country, is because somehow we suffer from the problem of failing to use the assets that we have. Zambia has got some of the best brains around in many fields: physics, chemistry, business administration, scholarship, blah, 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 blah. It's intellectual capital flight because of a failure to exploit resources that you have. This is a big thing, ladies and gentlemen. I think let me stay there a little bit, because you see the difference between a poor person and a rich person is how they exploit the assets they have. Asset number one, time. The knowledge, the knowledge or the absence of knowledge of the advantages that you have. One key similarity between our forefathers and our current fathers is that both of them had copper, and they had no ways of measuring what they had. So the buyer who came, they sold it for a song. Exploitability. You have copper and you're still poor. Ah, come on. That's a problem. You've got a car and you're still walking on foot. No. That is a contradiction. That's what we're talking about. Strategy. I'm provoking you enough where you are going to go and change the environment that you find, because that's exactly what Zambia needs. Zambia is extremely poor in terms of strategic planning and management. Every 10 years, we change our national development plan. Are you aware of that? We don't even review what the others did. Because no continuity, no self-improvement. Strategic planning. I've provoked you enough. Okay, finally, the 7 forces, external forces that will attack your business, for which you need, as a strategic manager, to prepare. Number one, change from politics. Change from politics. How many of you know how long a presidential term lasts in Uganda? Central African Republic, Burundi, Zambia, 5 years, Zambia. USA, 4 years. China. How many of you know some important countries that do not have a term limit on the presidency? Russia, China, North Korea. Okay, now North Korea, Russia, China, someone might label you. But Germany, Britain, you know how long? You know how many presidential terms Margaret Thatcher served? The issue is this: when there is change in politics, there is change in business. Why? Because politics usually bring their own policies. So you find that in the previous government, these are realities. In the previous government, the head of state was always fighting with the mines. Did you notice? Every 3 to 5 months, there'll be a row concerning mines. The new president somehow is making peace. So change comes from politics, because politicians come with their own new policies. And a good example, practical example for business students, is a story of Airtel. What was Airtel before it became Airtel this time around? Because it's Airtel now. It was something else before. What was it? Zain. And do you know how long it was Zain? How long was it Zain? 5 years. Before it was Zain, what was it? Celtel. And how long was it Celtel? And before it was Celtel, what was it? So now, there's something about these 5 years, 5 years wachinja, 5 years washtisha. It's because in Zambia, you have, as a company who invests a certain amount of money in the economy, you've got exactly 5 years to operate without company tax, without having to pay company tax. So they would come in, put in money, and they're making profits, no company tax for 5 years. The moment now it's going to expire. Wafumamo, waleta mobambi. Na waleta mwimpia shabo. Na wabangira mfefi in 5 years. So now you may say, these people are very stingy and they're very shy, they're very selfish. No, they're not selfish. They're working with your laws because that is what your politics have said. So the political environment sets the business environment. And as a strategic manager, you need to articulate your business or your firm through that environment by watching carefully what the politics are doing. One of the things that therefore that strategic managers do is to study, Chala by election. They profile all the leading candidates and say, this one will come and do this for our company. This one is going to give us this advantage. This one is going to give us this disadvantage. Some will even say, we want to invest, but first we'll wait until the elections pass. Why? The political environment sets the business environment. Change from the environment. Things can change very quickly and very rapidly and very radically. And that can affect your business. Just the environment. There have been countries that have been hit by tsunamis. Countries that have been hit by earthquakes. Countries that have been hit by famines. Low yield in their harvest of critical grain, or is it rice or bananas or whatever. And that can quickly and rapidly change the business environment. So strategic planning looks at those. If you're going to be operating near a river, you're going to be operating near the mines. There's dust pollution from the mines. And that can affect your business. So strategic planning, you take into consideration the environment. Then the change can come from the society. And a good example is like, I want to look at business as business. I want to look at church as business. And I want to look at even politics as business. So in 2010, by 2010, the MMD is in its 19th year of being in power. Okay? People who knew it, people who voted for it, are now 19 years older. And somehow they think they can still win an election by dressing Ifimuti, by putting vitenges all over the country, dress monkeys, dress mango trees, dress everywhere. Then someone says, don't kubeba. Get, but don't. You remember that language? Yes. Then the elections come, incumbent loses. And one has, but how have I lost? Why? Society. The society changes. Every 3 to 5 years, there is a new generation. And the current government studied this very well. They said, the people who voted for the PF are now 10 years, they've moved on. The needs of the country 10 years ago are not the needs of the now. So what are the needs of the now? Studied them. So I like HH for me, not from a political point of view, but from a business point of view, because he knows strategy extremely well. The things I'm talking about, he can teach you with his eyes closed, because he has learned those things. You know, he has a master's degree in business administration, I think, to do with finance. So whether you're BBA or MBA or Master of Finance, whatever, you will always learn this. In fact, what I'm discussing here is called Pestel. Maybe you've already done it, I don't know. Okay, so changes from society. There's changes from technology. If you look at the story of the Post and Telecommunications Corporation, that is change from technology. So you are busy with physical post boxes and stamps. Someone is thinking of email, electronic mail. You are busy thinking of making TV sets, those big TV sets. Someone is thinking of LED TV. And so you're thinking of terrestrial television as a means of distributing television products. Someone is thinking of distribution on the smartphone. Is what I mean? So technology is a serious source of change in business. So as a strategic manager, you need to keep an eye on what are the technologies currently in development which will come and threaten my company. Change from the economy. There are three forces within the economy that impose change on business. Number one, we know about it, exchange rate. The exchange rate gets messed up, your supply chain gets messed up. The cost of production goes up. Therefore, you're going to increase your prices. If you over increase, you can price yourself out of the market. So it's a vicious circle. There's what is called macroeconomics, there's what is called microeconomics. There's what is called economic policy, financial policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy. Who's doing economics here? The decisions, so let's simplify this. The decisions that the economic managers of a country, the decisions that they make, that affects business. So as a strategic manager of your business, you need to keep an eye on what decisions are being made. So every year, ZRA publishes a new tax code. What the company tax will be, what the turnover tax will be, and so on. And those things affect your business. So you need to keep an eye. The reason why CEOs, CFOs, COOs, the reason why they pay attention to the announcement of the budget is because the budget sets the tone for business for the next 1 year. Changes in statutory regulation. What I've actually talked about, ZRA, that is statutory regulation. But changes in the economy, really, these are those things that seem to regulate themselves. So it's not really someone making decisions, but they're just happening, and so you need to be aware of them. Like I've worked a lot in healthcare, and one of the things that we talk about in the boardrooms is that the patients of today, when a patient is sitting in front of a doctor, more than 90% of the time, they know about their condition. Sometimes even more than the doctor knows. Why? Access to information. So there's something that has happened in the economy. People have access to information, and therefore they are a lot more intelligent when they're dealing with you. They're not as dumb as those were in the past. So you need to be aware. Oh, this has changed in the society. This is changing in the society. So how do we articulate our business, our value proposition? Change from politics, change from the environment, change from society, change from technology, change from economy, change from statutory regulation, and we're done with Pestel. So therefore, what is strategic management? Strategic management is managing for the firm's future by investing in strategic leadership. So good companies, strong companies like Dell, Lenovo, they are looking already, as we are speaking today, they know that this guy who is the current CEO, his contract is expiring in the next 10 years' time. So they're actively looking for the person to replace him. So they invest in strategic leadership. So they go into universities identifying either a lecturer or a professor. They're always asking who will lead our company 10 years from now. So that you invest in strategic leadership. Then you invest in strategic talent. Okay? Strategic talent. There's a change at Man U right now. There's a coach who has been given, is it 3 years or 4 years, with an option to extend for 5. So he has begun to look for talent. which talent, which is the talent which will take me to where I want to be? Strategic finance. Strategic in terms of finance at this level is not just making financial reports and balancing the books. It is the question of where can we put money so that in the next 5 or 10 years that money will come back to us. Strategic marketing. You look at your market and you say, what are the dynamics? What are the changes in the market? Where will this market be in the next 5 years? And you articulate yourself likewise. And then you look at strategic resources, what we talked about, resources that are valuable, that are inimitable, that are non-substitutable, that are exploitable, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that ends the theory of what I prepared for you. Now let's go into the practice. So we're going to identify important competitive forces in Zambia. You are already in 4 groups, eh? So group 1, where are you? Group 1, you are there. What are the implications of Zambia's growing population on the employment prospects of BBA students, and what personal strategic plans can a BBA student put in place to face these implications? Okay, what are the implications of Zambia's growing population? Let me give you a picture, because so you're going to discuss for about 10 minutes, and then you're going to come and make a presentation. So Zambia's population in 1964 was approximately 2 million. In 1964, you did not need to be a Bachelor of Business Administration or a Bachelor of Finance, Banking and Finance, in order for you to go looking for a job. If you were a grade 7 and you were able to read and write, you were guaranteed a job in the bank. Grade 7. Why? The country was young, the people were few, the skills were scarce. 55 years down the line, the population has grown how many times? How many thousand times? 2,000 times, or 2,000%. Now we are 18 million. So what does that have? What impact does that have on the prospect of getting a job? Now, it's an important question for research. We cannot answer it, but I'd like us to discuss the implications. So that is your assignment, group 1. You can even go. Or maybe you want to hear the other questions, eh? Yeah, so we're just going to go for about 10 minutes, share our thoughts, make some points, and come and present them. Group 4. What are the implications of Zambia's growing urban population on the water reticulation systems of cities, and what can a strategic manager do to plan for these implications? Okay. What was the population of Kitwe as a city in 1964? About 40,000. What is the population of Kitwe as a city now? It's more than 600,000. So what does that do on the water distribution systems? So as a strategic manager, how do you address that problem? So that is for group 4. Where are you, group 4? Okay. So go, you're going to come and present. Group 3, where is 3? Okay. Imagine that you have taken charge of an international company which is called Brussels Mining Limited in the 3rd year of President HH's 2nd term. So he's been president for how many years? 8 years. He's been president for 8 years. So there's 2 more years and there's going to be an election. So you've taken charge of that company and you are the CEO. What would you implement? When would you implement a new financial and technological strategy, and why? So you share, you discuss the points and come and share. Group 2. That is the group 2, eh? Okay, group 2. Explain the competitive dynamics at play between minibuses and cars in public transport along the CBD to Riverside route? And what advice would you give to a friend wanting to enter this market, and why?